This is my way of kind of standing up for what I believe in and showing you a different side of the spectrum, which you might not have seen before. And I think that I always urge all Muslims to kind of become ambassadors for their religion and to kind of step up to the plate and answer questions and be more involved in community. I think that's one way of dealing with it. I did a screening at University at Buffalo yesterday, and one of the professors there actually was talking about the African American experience, and he was saying, I think it becomes problematic when Muslims start defining themselves and talking about themselves in a language which is already slanted against them. And he said that, for example, the African American community had been able to develop their own language so that now they don't have to define themselves in somebody else's language. They can be who they are and they can express that freely. And my answer to that was that I think that it takes time to get there, and I think African Americans are in a different place in their struggle. They kind of have earned the right to be more in your face and to be who they are. For Muslims, this struggle started in 2001. So we're very, very new, and I think we're very new at this, and I think the climate is so dangerous right now that I really don't think that a lot of strident, aggressive, in-your-face Muslims are going to be very effective in changing, our image. I don't think that's going to work. I don't think it's going to play out very well. So yes, we should engage, but I think we should be accessible and approachable rather than be angry and strident and aggressive and assert ourselves. I think there will be a time for that, but I think this is not the right time. This is my view on it. I get that question a lot where young people ask, well, what can we do to help? And the three things that I talk about are, first of all, the media. Do not believe anything you read, even in the New York Times. Don't believe it. Do your own research. The internet is a great resource. That's what I use all the time. You can get news from all over the world on the internet. You can get the BBC. You can get news from the Middle East. And if you start looking at that news, you will realize how different the coverage that you're getting is, and how certain things are simply missing in that coverage. So that is so important. Is not to trust the media pundits. Go and do your own research and then make up your mind. If you have a question about Islam, talk to a Muslim. Don't listen to the media pundits. Talk to a Muslim. A lot of my friends actually went out and bought the Quran, and they thought that that would be a good way for them to learn about Islam. But the Quran is a holy book. It's like the Bible or the Torah. There's so much context that is needed to understand the Quran. There's so much explanation and reference to the context that you need to understand it. It's not even that easy for me to understand it, to tell you the truth. So by all means, I'm not discouraging anyone from buying the Quran, but if you read the Quran, talk to a Muslim about it. Talk to Muslims, ask them the questions, and you will get a very different view. And another thing that I talk about is citizen engagement. It's very important to be engaged in what's going on in our country, to be engaged in the political process. So please, we need more citizen engagement. Again, don't believe everything you read in the media. Make up your own mind and then vote. That's so important. And last but not the least, I just want everyone to be aware of the fact that there's a lot of profiling going on right now. And it's racial, it's ethnic, and it's religious. And I think that profiling is a very slippery slope, and we know that from history. I mean, it starts with people having a certain name or a certain religion being separated from others or identified as such, but it can lead to horrific things. So there is a lot of profiling going on right now, and I just urge everyone to be against that, because I feel like that's not something where you can say, well, this much of profiling is okay, but that much is too much. It's just a no-no. Everyone's rights should be equally protected under the law. It's called Vox Pop, where it's actually a documentary technique where you go to cafes or you go to, you basically grab people at random, people going, walking down the street, you just grab them and you interview them and you ask them the same question. So my question was, over and over again, I was asking the same question. If you could ask any question you wanted, about Islam or Muslims, and you didn't have to be politically correct or anything that you're curious about, what would that question be? So a lot of people were very actually forthright, and they said what was on their mind. And I kind of aggregated all those questions into these big categories, and those are the ones that I discuss in the film. The reason why 9/11 was, I think, so traumatic for Americans because it was unprovoked. It was unprovoked violence, unprovoked barbarity. But at the same time, if you look at the war in Iraq, how can you say that that's any different? Because that's a completely unprovoked war, completely unprovoked. And it's the same, it's maybe a higher level of barbarity simply because of for how long it's been going on and all the things that have happened there and how that country has been torn apart and we've started a civil war there. So yeah, there is a lot of hypocrisy. I think you shouldn't get lost in the semantics. If you look at what's happening and you don't get lost in the language that we use to describe different things, then things will become more clear.